Good afternoon. I'm Jeff Cox. I'm the Associate Vice Chancellor for Faculty Affairs. My office is tasked with staffing both of the committees that are reviewing the status of, in the one instance, the School of Journalism and Mass Communication, and the other instance, the future of the study of information, communication, and technology at the university. Welcome to all of you. This is one of two open fora we are hosting for students, primarily in the School of Journalism and Mass Communication, but it's open to any and all students, and for that matter, anyone in the university community or beyond. I'll introduce the other members of the panel, but just so you know, so we are taping this session, so two of these cameras are ours. That's just to archive these meetings and make sure we can get a full record of your responses. The other cameras in the room are students filming or shooting photographs for classes. So this is not, these are not members of the professional press here filming you, and I'm sure your student colleagues will not be putting you up on YouTube after you make your brilliant remarks. The purpose of this meeting is to get your input on a formal process called program discontinuance. And I'll say a little bit more about that process, but a number of people involved in that process are with us this afternoon. There's a committee charged with taking on the review of program discontinuance. That committee involves a group of faculty members. A subcommittee of that group is tasked with gathering information for the full committee, and those three people are Sam Fitch, a professor in political science, Bob Spencer, a professor from psychology and neuroscience, and Debbie Hollis, a professor in the university libraries. They are joined by a number of administrators who have responsibilities for areas that are of concern under program discontinuance. So the dean of the graduate school is part of the committee. That's John Stevenson. He can't be with us today, but obviously he's looking out for the interests of graduate programs. The interim vice chancellor for diversity, equity, and community engagement, Bob Boswell, is on the committee. And also on the committee and with us today is Mike Grant, the Associate Vice Chancellor for Undergraduate Education. And they'll be the ones listening to your comments once we get going. So this is all, I'm sure, a rather confusing process and a process that has caused concern on your part. There's a couple of things that you need to know before we get going. And then I'll talk a little bit more about just the technical aspects of the process. The first is that no decision whatsoever has been made about the ultimate fate of the School of Journalism and Mass Communication. The Chancellor has asked the appropriate committee, the committee I just described, on campus to begin an investigation as to whether the school should be continued in its current form, whether it should be transformed, or whether it in a kind of doomsday scenario would simply be shut down. This is a process that is mandated by the Board of Regents anytime we need to reorganize a unit that includes tenure, that's a tenure-bearing unit, a unit that includes faculty members that hold tenure. But this is just a review process. No decision has been made by the committee that is looking into this. No decision has been made by the provost, who will receive the report of that committee, and no decision has been made by the chancellor, who will receive a recommendation from the provost. So this is a very serious opportunity for you to express your opinions. We had meetings, open meetings last week with faculty. We're meeting with the staff of journalism tomorrow morning, and there are a series of other meetings with constituencies and stakeholders on campus and off campus. For example, next Tuesday evening, there will be an open meeting for alumni to come express their opinions. If you have things you wish to say you don't feel comfortable saying today or don't have time to say today, or if you have friends that couldn't be here, you can contact the committee at input@colorado.edu. All right, so no decision has been made one way or the other about what's going to happen. Nothing has been shut down yet. It's also important to know that the campus has made a commitment that any of you who are enrolled in journalism or are committed to become journalism students or graduate students in one of the programs in journalism will be allowed to complete your degree programs. So even if at the end of the day, the campus, it would actually require an act of the Board of Regents. If the Board of Regents were to say, we wish to cease operating the School of Journalism and Mass Communication in its current form, we guarantee that we will have all the academic programs you need up and running until you're completed with your degree. So that means even if we decided this year to do something, it's a minimum of 3 years before anyone would actually notice any difference. So you do not need to be concerned about your personal future in terms of your ability to get the degree you want to get. And please pass that word on to your fellow students, to your parents, to your friends, to your pets, to anyone who's concerned about your future. Your future is secure. It's also the case that there is another process that's in motion right now that is separate from this process, but also concerns potentially the future of the School of Journalism and Mass Communication. At the same time as the Chancellor asked Academic Affairs, we're part of Academic Affairs, to start the program discontinuance process. That is, he ordered the provost to do that. He also ordered the provost to create an exploratory committee to look into the future of information, communication, and technology on campus. That committee is being asked to perform a kind of high-level visioning or mission-creating process to look at what capacity we have on campus, what interests we have on campus, what needs we have on campus, and what exciting things we might imagine doing on campus in this very large area that obviously includes the work of journalism and mass communication, but includes a lot of other academic units on campus: computer science, the communications department in arts and sciences, the information systems group in the business school, digital media specialists in arts and sciences, digital artists. There's a long list of people that have an interest in this area. So that committee's charge is try to figure out what kind of cutting-edge degrees and research programs we should be creating in order to move the university forward in a rapidly changing media environment. That committee, which is chaired by Professor Merrill Leslie of the Department in Theater and Dance, he is, amongst other things, a former interim chancellor of the Colorado Springs campus, the former vice chancellor for academic affairs at that campus, and the former dean of a school of professional education at San Diego State that included a journalism school. That committee will also be soliciting your opinion, will also be holding open meetings. So if you have ideas about the future, look for those announcements and please join them to give them your ideas. So, what are we doing here today? Under the program discontinuance policy, when an officer of the university, in this case the Chancellor, orders a review for program discontinuance, he can do so under 3 categories. Chancellor DeStefano asked this committee to look at 2 categories. One is budget issues. These are largely issues of fact. The appropriate offices on campus have been requested to provide that information. If you have something to say about budgetary matters, we're happy to hear about it, but that's not primarily what those of us who aren't budget specialists have much to say about. The other set of issues he asked us to address are issues of strategic realignment. You all should have received a sheet of paper that has the 9 subjects under strategic realignment that are set by the Board of Regents. So this group is, and there's a much larger group beyond this, is looking at these issues to basically try to ask the question, are we currently delivering through the current School of Journalism and Mass Communication the best degree plan we can in this area, and is this the best administrative structure in which to deliver it? But there are those various categories under which we have to respond. So what we're going to do now is we're just going to open the mics. We invite any and all comments. You can also feel free to ask questions. But we're particularly interested in your views as we contemplate the future of the school. If you just please identify yourself by name and where you are in the program, you're a graduate student, senior, a pre-admit, and let us know what you think. So with that, we'll open up the mics.
I'm a pre-journalism student. I'm not in the school yet. And I'm just wondering, you're only allowing students to apply for this fall and the coming spring to get into the school?
So currently we are still accepting students to enter into the program, into the school. But obviously, if the Board of Regents decides that they are closing the school, we have to stop admitting students at some point, or we never get to the if we're going to be committed to allowing students to complete, we've got to stop it at some point. So right now, all the admissions processes are still flowing because no decision has been made. Today, there is still a School of Journalism and Mass Communication. If a decision is made in the course of this year that would alter that, that would obviously have an impact on future admissions. Mm-hmm.
My name is Stephanie Robinson, and I'm a graduate student, first year. I guess I have two questions. I want to know why anybody who currently is enrolled in the program would want to stick around and tough it out for a degree that the university has publicly said is not really worth it anymore. And the second one is, does the university feel that it's unethical to have admitted all of us graduate students? It's different in the case of a graduate student versus an undergraduate. People have families, people move across the country. It's a different life transition than it would be for an undergraduate. And I want to know, to us it seems that the university was excited about maybe getting that last scoop of change from us, and then 2 days into our program saying, it's not going to be here. Is it unethical? Should we be thinking that it is, that we weren't informed? Because the initial letter to the Chancellor was dated in April. So how did it go so long from us?
So let me make it clear that this committee had no role in ordering program discontinuance and has made no decision about program discontinuance. They can't answer your question. Their role is an investigative one, is to gather information, in this instance, from students and opinions from students. So in one sense, your question would have to be posed to the Chancellor, who is the one who asked the process to begin. But I'll try, though I'm not in possession of any special knowledge, I'll try to answer your question, which is so that in the life of any academic operation, if we're going to transform it, we have to pick a moment in which we're going to make a decision and try to move forward. There's never a moment in the history of a university in which there are no students enrolled in an existing program. So you either have to adopt the position that you can't shut down any program because there are already students in it, or you have to say, under a set of policies and a very clear-cut and open procedure, there is a deliberative process put in place to make the decision about whether we want to make a change moving into the future. Why was the announcement made when it was made? It was at the beginning of a semester when the faculty was reconvened and when a committee could be formed. If the Chancellor received a letter in April and it announced this in May, it would have meant this committee, from the moment of the Chancellor's announcement, has under Regent rules 60 days to make its report. That would have meant if the Chancellor had announced this in May, the faculty largely would have been absent from campus. The students certainly would have been absent from campus. I think that would have been a very inappropriate process to follow. It was very important to wait until the university community was regathered to listen to your opinions. As to opposed, on the issue of receiving tuition, you're paying tuition to receive course instruction and degrees. You will receive course instruction and degrees. That's what you're paying for. You're not paying for a process.
So what options will we have to receive a better degree? But I guess the question is that, I mean, truly the university, especially in the media, has come out and said that it's an underperforming education, comparatively speaking to what else is offered. So are you saying that we should look to transfer, or will we be given an opportunity eventually, you know, take an internship for a year, come back, receive the better education?
So the university has said no such thing about the status of the school. All the university has said is that the process of program discontinuance will begin. There have certainly been comments in the press, in some cases by friends of the School of Journalism and Mass Communication that have been critical of the school. Those have not come from the dean, the provost, or the chancellor, who have basically expressed no opinion other than an excitement about the possibilities of what we may be able to create out of this double process of looking at the current status of the school and its possible future development. So, of course, if the university announces that it is creating new degree plans and you were excited or interested in those degree plans, a process would be created for you to be able to move into those programs. But universities don't move incredibly rapidly. Again, all of you will have the academic programs that you signed up for available to you until you are done. But if for some reason you saw some other option being created that was of greater interest, that would be your choice to be able to move into another program. What we're really talking about is instead is what are we going to be creating for future students. We've already guaranteed your education, but the real question is what sort of degree plans are we going to be offering to the students of the future? And this is really, I mean, these kinds of things has happened in the history of educational institutions. You know, the current structure of the university is not the way it looked like 100 years ago or 500 years ago. Programs of study arise and programs of study decline. We don't know yet what the fate of this particular set of degrees is.
Jeff, may I ask her a question?
Sure.
Hollis. You can't hear me. Anyway, so what were the features of this program that interested you? That
To be 100% honest, I never once looked at the curriculum of what classes I was going to take. I looked at who your alumni were, who they've networked with, what they're doing, and what they've achieved. And this program is very reputable. So I would urge you to move as quickly as you can to offer it to everyone.
Thank you. I know this looks like kind of like a Senate hearing, but it's really just a bunch of faculty members sitting up here. So, you know, you guys talk in class all the time. Just feel comfortable. We do need you to step up to the mics, though. It's the only way we can get you recorded.
My name is Robin Donovan, and I am a first-year graduate student in the Mass Communication Research Program. And I know that you don't want us to ask a lot of questions in this forum, but I just want you to consider that we would like options. Can we defer to the new program? Can we be grandfathered into that new program? Can we get a refund of our tuition if we decide we don't want to continue? I just think that we want to have options. We want an explanation for why there was a delay in telling us when we all, I think 99% of us are from out of state. And just consider that and get back to us as quickly as possible with our options.
So, you want to ask a question to me?
Robin, so what were the features of the program? So I'll have that question for anybody who comes up to the mic, is I'd like to know what drew you to this particular program?
I was actually drawn to the mass communication aspect of it, not the journalism aspect of it. I was hoping to get into media studies and communication technology, which I thought was really ironic that the new program might actually be communication technology. So that's where my interest kind of lies. So I'm hoping that, you know, I'm not in any rush. So I'm hoping that I can maybe check out that option down the road. But certainly the classes that I am interested in, I thought would be less journalism. But the classes that I'm taking this semester, which are required courses, focus a lot on journalism. And also I'm taking the environmental policy certificate. That was something that was not offered at other schools, so I am excited to be able to take that too and have that as an option.
Great, but your question raises two things that I should have made clear, which about the timeline. So under Regent rules, this committee only has 60 days to do its work. So a report will be made public around about the beginning of November. The report is delivered to the provost November 1st. He has to review it and decide whether he accepts the report. He could find errors of fact in the report, but assuming the report is accepted, it will at that point be made public. So this portion of the process of deciding whether there is a recommendation to continue, transform, or discontinue the School of Journalism will be made very rapidly within this semester. The exploratory committee that has the larger mission is reporting to the provost by December 31st with a report date out to the campus of February 1st. So at that point, it should become pretty clear where we're going. That to you, I'm sure, seems like a long time. In university time, that is a nanosecond. Universities, despite the fact that people think they are bastion of liberal radicalism or the most conservative institutions in the world, we change very, very slowly. We particularly change things like degree plans, programs, and tenure homes very slowly. These are things we spend a lot of time building and we hold dear. We just don't throw them out the window willy-nilly. So this is a pretty quick process. I do want to, again, address the question two people have said, why was the decision delayed? I don't believe there was any delay. The Chancellor received a number of pieces of information at the close of the spring semester. He deliberated over the summer. He announced his decision as soon as he had made it. And again, had he made that decision earlier, it would have compromised the process that we're involved in. So had he announced this in the spring, one, I don't think he had made the decision in the spring, but again, there would have been no way for the university to conduct its business in a proper way. And because the Chancellor hasn't made up his mind, it is not as if he was holding any information from anybody. He doesn't know what his decision will be. As far as we are all concerned, there is an operational School of Journalism and Mass Communication until the Board of Regents decides otherwise. There was somebody who was getting up to say something.
I'm short. My name's Jessie, and I'm applying to the journalism school in 2 weeks. And the curriculum that I was interested in, or I still am interested in, is media studies. And when I heard that the J School wanted to become a little bit more technologically savvy and I guess become more technologically focused, I don't know if that's true. I know you guys are still deliberating that. But I kind of urge you guys to not go away from, like, I guess the philosophical, like, media and ethics. That class seemed interesting to me. Women and the media, kind of like pre-law oriented things. So not just the journalism stuff, kind of what Robin was saying. I mean, there's other areas within the media that still need to be tended to, I guess.
Okay, thank you. And that, obviously, this committee is looking at the full range of programs in the school. And of course, again, Jesse, when the exploratory committee holds its meetings, you'll probably want to come to them and say the same thing, because they are deciding about the flavor or flavors. You know, it doesn't have to be only one flavor. There's a large set of issues here. We may be setting up a range of new or continue old programs. So thank you.
Hi, my name is Jordan Werfsbrock. I'm a graduate student on the professional side. I've been here for 2 years, so this is my 5th and probably last semester, so I think I have a different perspective as someone who's sort of leaving the journalism school. While I've been here, I've had probably more than most opportunities outside the journalism school to pursue my academic and professional interests. I've taken a lot of classes in other departments. Environmental studies, English, Atlas, and geography, and those experiences were really valuable to me, but one of the things that they solidified was that the type of inquiry that I learned at the journalism school is so unique and so essential, and it's so different than what you get in other academic departments. And so I really enjoyed going out from the journalism school into those departments and sort of sharing my perspective as a journalist and sort of clashing with them at times, but then also learning from them. So if I'm going to be honest about my experiences here, there's been some things that disappointed me. You know, the way that the school has dealt with digital media, we're a little behind, that's no secret. There's other ways that we're behind, but there's one area that the school really didn't disappoint at all, and that was instilling in me the importance of journalism and the value of journalism, and I guess what distinguishes journalists and the way that we seek out knowledge from the way other people on campus do. And so I didn't really truly know what journalism was or why it was important until I came to CU, and now I know that that's what I want to spend the rest of my life doing. And I don't think I could have done that sort of as a sub-department or on, you know, a track within a larger academic department. It just would not have been, I guess, valued in the same way. And to answer your question about what specific things drew me here, it was one thing in particular, and that was the Center for Environmental Journalism. That's the only reason I applied here, and that's why I came. Thanks.
I have one question for you. So what was your undergraduate degree in?
Aerospace engineering. So not at all journalism related. So I didn't really know what journalism was or what it meant until I came here. So.
And not to put you on the spot, but what would, so you said you've learned what journalism is that's distinct from these other disciplines. Can you give us a bumper sticker version of what that is?
Well, there's a lot of things that set journalists apart, and one of them is a commitment to, I think, understanding what a subject means on a level that the entire public can share it. If you go into other classrooms, you know, there's anthropologists or sociologists or policy wonks, and they speak within their own sort of siloed, I guess, terminology and their own frameworks, whereas sort of the role as a journalist is to sort of cut through all those and find what's really going on, and that's what I want to do. So.
Great, thank you.
Hi, is this one on? My name's Jennifer Grothy. I'm a first-year master's student, and I hate speaking in microphones, sorry. One question I have is, when the discontinuance has been set in motion previously, has the result ever been not to discontinue? And also, there have been some, I guess I would say, rumors going around about that discontinuance allows for getting rid, for lack of a better word, of tenured faculty, and I was wondering if you could address that.
Yes, thank you. So the answer to your first question is we've never done this under this policy before. So there is no record of program discontinuance under the policy created by the Board of Regents. So there was a less well-defined process that occurred before that didn't mandate, for example, student involvement as the current process does. So It's hard to say, because in the past it would have been more likely a administrative discussion, gee, maybe we should shut down X, Y, or Z, and maybe they decided to shut it down or not. The last program that had tenured faculty in it that was closed at this campus was the Interdisciplinary Telecommunications program, which was housed in the engineering college. It was shut down as a tenure-bearing unit and recreated in another format. We still run an ITP program. It just isn't. It just is organized differently. So, so we don't really have a whole lot of experience. So, but the question about people with tenure in a unit. So, if the school is formally discontinued, so if the Board of Regents says they are shutting the school down, we then obviously have a number of years in which we need to continue to deliver the program, which would probably be the time with which we work with the faculty, but there's also a mandated minimum of a year that we have to work with all tenured faculty to try to place them in another unit on campus, and we have to make every effort to help them make that transition. So again, with the ITP program, there were 4 or 5 faculty members. All but one of them were moved into another tenure home. One decided to go to another university. So if things were shut down, there would then be an effort to work with the current faculty and say, where could you imagine yourself finding a home? And then we would engage. That's a process that's mandated to the Chancellor to oversee. We would try to work out that movement of faculty. Now, obviously, if a new entity is created at the same, let's say we're closing down journalism and opening up the College of the New Thing, that College of the New Thing might be a home to a large part of journalism, maybe all of journalism, maybe just a part of journalism, maybe none of journalism. We obviously don't know the answer to that. But the university has a commitment to try to find a home for all faculty. When an agreement cannot be reached, I mean, maybe we offer a home to a faculty member and they don't want to take it, that faculty member is obviously welcome to seek employment elsewhere, or there's a severance agreement that's, again, set by Regent policy.
Okay, thanks.
My name is Kiki Turner, and I'm actually a freshman undergraduate, and I was a direct admit into the program. And so I realized that I have the option of sticking with the old curriculum, but a lot of people have been commenting on this possibility of a new program, and a lot of people have been talking about the technology and the new digital this and that, and while I think that's good, and I am also in support a more updated system, I guess I would just like to say that I hope that some of the fundamentals of journalism stay intact as well. When I was looking for schools this time last year, there were a lot of places over the country that didn't have specific journalism schools, but instead more like technology this or digital that, and I was drawn to a more basic journalism degree. And I think you can have all the technological gizmos in the world, but if you're not taught the basics of writing and reporting and investigating and critical thought, then journalism as a whole would just sort of crumble. So I hope while we take a step into the future that some of the old-fashioned learnings are still kept. So that's just my comment.
Great, appreciate it.
Hi there. My name is Christina Gonzalez, and I am a third-year PhD student in the School of Journalism and Mass Communication. I also earned my master's degree at ETSU's SJMC in 2006, and so I'm very much a supporter and very much a voucher for how strong our program is academically, both on the graduate and the undergraduate level. During this process, we've heard a lot about the practice of journalism. We haven't heard as much about the fate of what will happen to media studies as a theoretical study within journalism. And of course, you know, journalism as a practice is seated well within the actual ideals of what it means to have journalistic practice in a free society. And so I really do feel fundamentally that, you know, as you go through this process and as you look at what to do with the school, that you consider the fact that the theory, the research, the practice of media studies should continue to be housed in the same building as the actual practice of journalism. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Hi, my name's Bryce Nixon. I'm a second-year PhD student in the School of Journalism, and I just want to make a few points. First, one of the first points that the Vice Chancellor brought up at the beginning in terms of there being two processes going on at the same time, I think that kind of creates a problem for us students and faculty, because for us it's one process basically, and so a forum like this puts us in a position to either kind of have to defend the status quo and say, here's what we do great, so don't shut us down, or we have to kind of embrace discontinuance, because as far as I can tell, what this committee is tasked with doing is producing a recommendation to say either yes, discontinue, or don't. So I know you emphasized reorganization, which I think is a key point here, because I think actually a new program could be great, could be a lot better than what we do. But it doesn't seem clear to me that there's a place for reorganization within this process so far. And I know there's another committee that's going to have its own meetings. So from my perspective, I think it actually would be more productive if there was any way to kind of do both these processes in a more integrated way. So I know that there's two separate committees with two separate goals, but the end result, I think it seems pretty clear that the School of Journalism is kind of at the center of both potentially being discontinued and potentially being part of a new program, which is great, that's fine, we should have that conversation, but I think it's hard to do it in a productive way when in one position we have to show up and we have to say either, don't do anything to us because what we do is great, or, yeah, we should embrace, technology and do, we should change things. It kind of puts us, I feel like, in an unproductive position that we can't really offer maybe a more nuanced position about, well, here's things that could be progressive and here's things that we should conserve at the same time. So, which I think would be the ideal, not just scrapping. Sorry, did you want to?
Well, I think you can exactly say that. So, I mean, we recognize there's a certain awkwardness about the double process. That we don't have a whole lot of choice about that. There is a regentially mandated process we have to follow if we're going to close a unit down. And obviously all of the focus is, because the words program discontinuance are scary and everybody's worried about their degree, and of course the faculty is worried about their jobs and staff's worried about their jobs and faculty on the committee are worried about their colleagues, so that's where all the focus is. But this is a process we have to pursue if we're going to be able to imagine creating something moving into the future. We've got, a limited set of resources, a limited set of human resources, some of which may be needed for this new program. The committee obviously doesn't know what it's going to say, but it certainly has the option of providing scenario-based responses. So if you were to do this as a result of the exploratory committee, we recommend that. If you were to do this, we'd recommend that. And I do think that they do want to hear exactly what you said, and which some other people have addressed, is so what should we keep and what should be changed? If we should be keeping 90% of what the current school does and we're talking about tweaking at the margins, we're talking about a curriculum revision inside a current structure. Right. If we're talking about trying to have to reimagine a very different configuration of faculty with different expertise, with a different set of degree programs, so if it's not a very large percentage of what we're keeping, well then that would suggest we want to reorganize. But Sam, you wanted to?
I was just going to say, I think the committee finds it very awkward as well, that because of the policy, this committee has to finish its work in 60 days, the other committee has a whole semester. There are lots of parts of planning what the new thing would be that I could see taking at least a year, if not longer, to figure out those details. But I think, again, the 60 days rule was put in part by the Board of Regents to prevent the faculty from simply talking to death or dilly-dallying about a decision about whether to discontinue or not. So our subcommittee is I think quite agrees with you. It's quite hard to recommend when we don't know what the alternative is by the time that we have to make a preliminary recommendation, and then the full committee has to make a final recommendation. So logically, it's a hard place to be in. But I think, again, the discussion about what the alternatives are is one that's likely to go on. But that's probably not over by February either.
And the Chancellor will have both. I mean, he's the one who makes the decision for the campus.
Right, right. Well, I mean, I do think that's encouraging if it's possible for this committee, for example, to say, well, in this, in this scenario, we would recommend this. In this scenario, we'd recommend this other thing. I think that at least leaves it open, because I do understand. I mean, this committee is in a difficult position too, because wanting to, recommend the best thing overall for the school or community, without knowing what might happen if you say, yeah, shut it down. Well, we don't know what that might mean. So I appreciate that. On the point of what I think is worth saving, I think on a fundamental level, you, Vice Chancellor Cox, you mentioned that to the faculty last week that the name of the exploratory committee, I understand, not this committee, is not necessarily very significant because information, communication, and technology is in the name, but you had to come up with a name, and so we shouldn't read too much into that, which I think is fair, and I take you at your word as far as that goes, but I think in this case, I think it's understandable why a lot of people in the SJMC would be nervous about that, considering just last semester we kind of had this potential for this kind of awkward marriage of us with computer science and whatever else, and I don't think there's been a lot of explanation of how this process is different, other than they're completely different people involved in the committees. But when it's framed kind of in the same way, I think it leads people to say, well, why is this any different than what's going on before? And so in terms of that technology, I think, ICT, if that's not what it's supposed to represent, that's fine, because that's, I think, good, because that is something specific, and technology is at the focus of that. A school of journalism, or the study of media, journalism, communication, culture, all that, in opposition to that, should have people and values at the core of it. Technology should be something along with media, television, Twitter, whatever, that is looked at as studied and used and learned how to use, but should be thought about critically at the same time that people are learning how to use it and what it means to use it. And so I would just encourage that, contrary to what it seemed the Chancellor thought when he said that the role of the press and journalism in a democratic society is changing, I would say, if that's true, we should be worried, and to some extent that might be kind of true, but the ideal role, which I think is what he was pointing to, the ideal role should not be changing, and as an educational institution, that should be the focus, I think, in terms of, well, what we should be pushing toward that ideal role. And then the last thing, in terms of graduate education, since I'm a part of that community, I think as this being kind of the flagship for Colorado and a top research university, that graduate research and education should definitely be a focus. I think this PhD program is a strong one, produces top graduates, and I think has a good approach to the study of media and communication and culture that serves to enhance society's wider understanding of these issues. And so that would be one thing that I know you mentioned the Dean of the Graduate School as part of this committee couldn't be here today, but I hope that just in the discussions that is also taken into consideration along with undergraduate. Thank you.
Thank you. I should mention one specific thing about the PhD program. The PhD program is run through, it's actually a degree through the College of Arts and Sciences. The discontinuance would have no immediate effect on the doctoral program. And you asked what's different about the processes. The committee that met last year did a lot of great work. It is informing the ongoing conversation. But the provost consciously created a committee this time that was not made up of members of directly affected units, but instead are campus leaders who have a more distanced interest in the set of issues, who have the task of pulling together faculty, students, and staff who are interested in these areas from not only the School of Journalism, but from across the campus to engage in an investigation. So I think what you're going to see is a very open process that is trying to hear from as many people as possible, and that again does not begin with a notion that we need to do anything in particular. We don't need to include computer science, but we don't need to exclude computer science. We don't need to take X unit into a new configuration. They're being given a completely open scope and are being asked directly to take on the issues you asked, the educational mission, that is what degree plans, what should we be teaching our students, and the research mission of the faculty that would be involved in that program.
Hi, my name is Layla Bagash, and I'm a first-year master's student. And I think a lot of us had other opportunities at other schools, but we chose to come here. And I can speak for myself in saying that I did have other options. But when I was making my decision, I talked to some people at the school, and they informed me that there was possibilities about new classes and things like that, and I was pretty excited about that. I was thinking that that was definitely good for me. But then when I was thinking about it, when all of this discontinuance stuff started coming out, I was thinking that it would be a much better process to be undertaken by the School of Journalism itself rather than coming from the outside. I think that the school would be able to come up with a curriculum on its own that incorporates digital media and maybe incorporates a new degree program for digital journalism or something like that, that people could choose to do along with broadcast and print media. And so I think that that's something that should be taken into consideration. I don't think that the School of Journalism and Mass Communication is completely useless and there's no room for them to do it themselves. I think that if you discontinue the program and then a new program comes in, completely wipes everything out, it could eliminate all of the good foundations that the School of Journalism already has. Thank you.
Hi there. Can you guys hear me? Oh, now you can. Good afternoon. My name is Caitlin Ring. I am a second-year PhD student, and I also teach the Intro to Contemporary Communication class, which is the pre-journalism prereq to get into the J School. So I have a lot of students that are in the process of getting ready to apply, so I want to speak kind of from both viewpoints. The one thing I wanted to mention, and it kind of builds off of what the last speaker talked about, is just to let the committee know, and I'm sure it may have already come up, is that, you know, the SJMC actually last year engaged in a pretty extensive program to reevaluate, reassess, and then redesign the undergraduate curriculum. So that's something that was set to be implemented next year, and I think that's kind of gotten lost in a lot of these discussions, as well as the fact is the graduate curriculum committee was convened and prepared to do that same process for the graduate committee this year. But for me, I guess, just sitting here listening to this, and I did walk in a few minutes late, so maybe you guys spoke to this, but I didn't get the sense at the hearings last week or yet today, has there been kind of an explication of what are the things that have been identified as problematic with the SJMC that we should try and address here? Because you're saying, you know, okay, there's this discontinuance process, but I guess from my end, I'm really confused about what are the specific shortcomings that we need to talk to say, hey, yeah, I've had that same experience, and yes, I think that needs to change, or no, hey, I haven't, and I think we're good to go. Has that been discussed?
So a list is circulated. So there's two categories under which the Chancellor has asked the committee to consider program discontinuance. One is budgetary, which is largely a set of facts. The other is a set, and Andre, do we have any more copies? Does she have a copy? These are strategic realignment issues. These are issues set forward by the Board of Regents to be considered. These are not criticisms. These are issues to be raised. You can address them, of course. So the first ones are basically asks what's the role of a School of Journalism in the vision and mission and strategic planning of the campus, and there's a whole series of these. Again, no one set out, this is not a prosecution. There was no indictment laid down against the School of Journalism. The Chancellor, in his letter, explained that as a result of the process that there was a task force last year looking into the potential creation of a College of Information. As a result of the work of that task force, plus an intervention by the advisory board that is advisory to the Dean of the School of Journalism, which made some recommendations about changing the school, that he decided to begin this process. But he is not, he nor anyone else within the university community has leveled a set of charges. What we're trying to find out is, so Al Central, the basic question to ask, so there's all those things, but it kind of boils down to, so moving into the future, do we want to continue to deliver the exact, more or less, we can change curriculums on the margins, but we more or less want to offer the same set of degrees we've done in the past, and is this the best administrative structure through which to do it?
Okay. I guess then, to that point, I guess the last thing I would want to reiterate to the committee is that I know it's been said earlier, and I think about, as I'm sitting here thinking about the students in my class and the talk about whether it's a professional school, a trade school, a combination of communication, technology, journalism, is just what's been said earlier, is this idea that it's very easy, especially for folks in this generation, they can learn to use the technology pretty quickly. What takes a lot more effort and what I think that we deliver that I think maybe a professional school or professionally based school may not be able to deliver as well is simply that, is those critical thinking skills. And so I would just encourage the committee to whatever they decide to make sure that there is a theoretical, essentially media studies based critical thinking portion of whatever program or curriculum ends up being developed.
Hello, my name is Rian Subijanto. I'm a second-year student in the PhD program. And as an international student, I came here obviously with an interest on the political issues in Indonesia in relations with the media and the states. And I find a home of my intellectual growth in the SJMC, like my other colleagues have mentioned, that we have this critical theory tradition. My question, and it mustn't be answered right now, it's fine. Just to piggybacking from my two previous colleagues, it's not only about, I think what my question would be, it's not only about maintaining the critical theory tradition in the whatever the outcome of the restructuring or discontinuances. My challenge would be, what would be the theoretical, philosophical, and epistemological grounding of the new institutions, if there is? Because again, the tradition that we're having right now, it has a clear epistemological grounding. It has a commitment of the social change for the society at large. It's not only society in the US. Obviously, I'm here. It's because also of the commitment to a global society. So if the outcome is, if we are trying to address some specific problems of, technology or money issue, how does the outcome actually not hinder the previous commitment to actually create a social change in the future? So, thank you.
And while administrators don't tend to use words like epistemological and theoretical, essentially the charge to the exploratory committee is to raise those base questions about, again, on what set of principles are we offering a degree plan, and what set of theoretical and applied questions are we doing our research. So I think that those will be addressed by the exploratory committee.
My name is Brendan Bosworth. I'm an international student also from South Africa. And I think I'll be reiterating what others have said, especially Jordan, because I came explicitly all the way from Cape Town to do the environmental journalism masters. I'm in my first year, been here for 3 weeks. And looking at the program, I think it's really unique. Back home at the time of application, which would be about a year ago now, I couldn't find a master's program with a specialization in environmental journalism, and they were definitely quite thin on the ground in the USA. And you know, some of the schools incorporate environmental journalism, maybe 1 or 2 courses, but I think the certificates, being able to take those courses in schools outside the journalism school is really beneficial. And maybe just talk about, you know, since I've been here, I've only done 3 courses, but it might just give you an idea of what I've taken from them so far. So the one is science writing, which is a practical application. It's actually going out, finding stories, reporting on them in obviously news format. And that's going to build your interviewing skills, your writing skills, your self-editing skills. And then getting the theoretical knowledge at the same time, doing a course in media ethics, which has made me really think about a lot of decisions I've made working as a journalist for the last 5 years. And I think those kind of things are really crucial to working journalists and working professionals. And then looking at doing mass communication theory, which, to be honest, I've thought the hardest about the sort of structure of society that I probably ever have in my life. Kind of things you know, not everybody thinks about all the time. And I think for people working in the field, those are essential academic and philosophical things to address. And then I just want to speak also, you know, since I've been here, I mean, the USA is really sort of streaks ahead technologically compared to Africa. I mean, we've got really slow internet penetration and it's still largely inaccessible, but there's almost this kind of like a digital paranoia going on where people are like, you know, if you're not doing digital in journalism, you know, what's happening to you? And just sort of also to add to what's been said, I mean, digital's not hard, you know. You can learn how to Twitter, you can learn how to Facebook, you can learn how to upload things onto YouTube. I mean, if you need people to help you out, you know, that's the case. But I think the essential core skills of journalism, being able to interview, think critically, being able to write properly, and how to approach things and, you know, get through all the sort of nonsense that's out there, that's really key. And yeah, I think digital is important, but I really think it's sort of ancillary to the actual core of what journalism is.
Thank you.
I'm Chelsea Barrett. I'm a freshman, but I'm a direct admit. So obviously I don't really know a lot about the school yet, but like what I basically wanted to say is that I was looking at 3 schools, CU, Boston University, and University of Oregon, because they all had really good J schools. I looked into the J schools. I mean, I did a lot of research into it because I knew I wanted to study journalism. And I thought CU was just as up to par as Boston University and University of Oregon. So I just want to say, like, if there's something really wrong with RJ school, then I guess there's something going on with BU and University of Oregon. So, I mean, just keep in mind that I came here because I thought the J school was up to par with a lot of other really good J schools.
Thank you.
I just want to say that I really like the word journalism, and I don't want to lose it. It implies a curiosity, and it implies a strong commitment to ethics, and it also implies a commitment to the truth and a commitment to change and for the embetterment of society. And I think that's an important thing to consider in the new program, if there is one, to not just keep the word, but to keep the meaning of it too. I think that's what I really love about the school and what sets it apart from just being a writer. I'm not a writer, I'm a journalist. There's a really important difference there, I think. And just to kind of add on to what people have said earlier, I agree that the basics are incredibly important in this school. And I know that there are a lot of things that you can learn out on the job, but I don't want to leave school with only the basics. I want to leave school totally prepared with all of those Twitter things and Facebook and learning how to shoot video. I want to be ready for the job market because it is so competitive. I don't want to have to learn it on the job, because they're expecting us to know that already, so I want to be ready for it. That was one of the scariest things, actually, going through the journalism school, is being in these classes and having guest speakers come. And every single one of them would say, you need to be able to do everything. You need to be able to shoot video and write well and work on the internet. And they would tell us this, but then nothing in our classes would reflect that. We didn't really get a lot of it, and I'm taking a digital media class now, and so I'm getting a little bit of it there, but there are like 7 other people in the class, and I know there are a lot of other people in the journalism school that would really love the opportunity to learn those kind of new media things. So I think it's important to have a balance of those basic principles along with the new media.
Thank you.
I just had one other thing to say. I think the fear with a lot of pre-journalism students and students that are already in the J school is that you're talking about these new and exciting programs for future students, but honestly, they're only our competition, and the industry is extremely competitive. So I mean, my fear at least is I'm applying into a school that will most likely be discontinued. And I'm going to be taking classes that the reason for discontinuance is that they're outdated, not current. So you are saying that students that are applying into, are currently in, are going to be getting degrees that aren't up to par, really. So I guess what I ask is that classes be offered to students, new classes, new and exciting classes, be offered to students who are in the school currently or applying into the school before the new and exciting school is formed.
So look, I'm a professor of English. There's nothing new and exciting. In English, we do the same thing we've been doing forever. There is a difference. Again, we're not deciding whether the School of Journalism is new and exciting. We're deciding whether it is the appropriate thing for the University of Colorado at Boulder to continue to offer the current set of programs in the current format. Now, one could imagine there could be all sorts of outcomes, one of which may be we have a new administrative formation in which journalism, maybe that would look pretty much like your degree, is offered, continue to be offered, but it's offered alongside an array of other degrees. Mm-hmm. It may just be that that the university says, yeah, journalism is great, but we don't want a school of journalism. We want journalism allied with another school or college. Mm-hmm. So we're not, to make it clear, we're not shutting, if journalism is shut down, it's not shut down for budget cut reasons. No one's ordered us to make budget cuts. But if you look around the country, all sorts of departments are being shut down for budget reasons. So take classics. There are lots of universities in this country that have ceased teaching classics. That doesn't mean that anybody believes that the study of classical culture isn't important. It is important. It continues to be important. It will always be important. But a particular university may decide that at a particular moment it can no longer offer classics, knowing that classics is being offered at other institutions. So even if the decision was made to close journalism down and not create anything new, that would say nothing about the discipline of journalism or the meaning of journalism. It would just say that this particular university at this particular time isn't going to invest in it. Now, no one's decided that. It's unlikely that would be the decision that was reached, but no one is sitting here. Our job is not to decide that journalism is a bankrupt discipline. Our job is to decide whether this university should continue to do what it's doing. Mm. It's a different question.
I guess just what I ask of you is that you recommend that new curriculum be established in the current J school while you're going about discontinuing and opening a new one. Why? Shaking your head, why? So
we don't, I think what you're asking would be to ask for new faculty and new programs to be installed on almost on an instantaneous basis, and I don't think that's very likely.
But on the other hand, there is, and I see the dean leaning forward, there is a new curriculum being put into place. Yes, please.
One of the previous speakers made reference to a year-long process in the previous academic year in which the SJMC faculty significantly revised the undergraduate curriculum in a way that strikes us all as being very much modernized. And you used the terms new and exciting, and I think most of the faculty members who worked on that process and unanimously approved the new curriculum would also use those terms new and exciting. Now, it takes a while to launch new courses and a new curriculum. So that's why, despite the fact that our faculty vote occurred in December of '09, the launch of the new curriculum is going to be in the fall of '11. It takes that long to create the new courses and to establish advising protocols and everything else that goes into the curriculum.
Thank you. And I should say the committee's requested the new curriculum. Andre, have we received it yet? Paul, if you could have somebody send us the... Yeah, thanks.
How do you think graduate students, especially this year and last year, how will they be affected? How will their title be affected when applying at local news stations or newspapers? Will they look down upon CU and the fact that media has claimed that the journalism school is closing? That we'll be out of date?
I mean, I'm not an expert in placing journalism students. I mean, I can, you know, the campus believes that you won't be affected, that, and we're certainly doing whatever we can do to minimize the impact. There will be, one of the reasons why this process is being moved quickly, and again, very quickly given typical university time, is so by the end of this year, and really by the middle of the year, by something around February, we hope there will be some clarity about where we are. And you know, if we are transforming the school, you know, I don't see why that would have a negative impact. So if you look at, and again, the dean could tell you better than I could, but if you look around the country, lots of journalism schools are reorganizing themselves. Lots of them are doing fairly significant transformations of their programs. Some of them are deciding to, for example, to cease offering undergraduate degrees and turn themselves completely into graduate programs. There's a wide array of things going on. So who can predict how anybody's going to respond to a particular set of situations? But it's not as if the conversations we're having on this campus are unique. They're occurring on any campus where people are paying attention to what's going on.
Hi. I just wanted to say, like the dean was talking about the curriculum change, which obviously takes a couple of years to be put into effect. Because of that, I wonder what the purpose of discontinuing the school would be then. If we're in the process of updating our curriculum, what would be the purpose of merging two schools when that's what we're in the process of doing, updating our curriculum to parallel the industry? Like, what would be the purpose of discontinuing the school then, if obviously, you know, it takes time?
Okay, so there's really two questions. So the first question is, so you said, so there's a revision of the curriculum. So that might lead the committee to say, the School of Journalism has addressed the, whatever we want to call it, changing times. And we're satisfied with that, and the committee recommends moving forward. So that's an important fact for the, and it's more than a fact, it's a substantial document, it is a commitment on the part of the school, it's a whole process that the committee has to answer. But the other, when you say why discontinue a program, You discontinue a program really for largely technical reasons, which really has nothing to do with anything that probably interests any of you. But let's say we imagined a new entity that included journalism and other things, and we wanted that to go forward. And let's say we invited every single member of the School of Journalism and Mass Communication to join that new unit. If there is still a School of Journalism and Mass Communication, under the way in which faculty rights are invested, there is nothing we can do to move them from the School of Journalism and Mass Communication without taking personnel actions against them individually. So one way to think about program discontinuance is that it is a tool that the campus is providing for itself, that if it wishes to move forward, it has the ability to do so in an orderly fashion. There are other reasons for discontinuing. I mean, we could just decide that a program is no longer needed, dysfunctional, it is under-resourced and we don't have the resources to make it good enough. I mean, there are all sorts of reasons, but at a base level, why would we discontinue anything? Because it is the only way to change the configuration of faculty who have tenure. Tenure is something the university protects very strongly, and it is vested in particular units, and it's just a process that has to be gone through.
I just wanted to say to like some students, just in the past year, a grad student and myself went through the painstaking task of hiring a new faculty member. So that's just, it takes so long, just to let you guys know, it takes so long and a lot of man hours to hire new faculty and like re-bring in new, fresh people for multimedia. So just wanted to tell you guys that.
Thank you.
My name is Ethan. I'm a senior in undergrad J school. One thing I think is interesting about this whole debate is we're looking at going forward, going in the future. Does this fit into CU's mission? On our very library, it says, "He who knows only his own generation remains forever a child." And if we lose professors like Doug Looney, Larry Zimmer, these tenured professors that have done it, we're going to just pretty much lose all the experience we have. I mean, we can bring in 25-year-old guys who can blog and Twitter, but I would much rather hear from a guy who wrote for Sports Illustrated for 20 years than an up-and-comer who hasn't done much yet. So our faculty, I think, is key. I think Dean Vokes has an amazing program, and I think you let him and his people put this new whatever it is together. Let them adjust your curriculum because they know what they're talking about. And I mean, no disrespect to other departments and you on the board, but let's bring in people who know what's going on in journalism. Let's bring in outsiders. You know, I have a professor who I can see on the nightly news on Fox 31 every night. He knows what's going on out there. So let's bring these people in and let them say, what does the school need to adjust, what needs to change, and let it happen from within, not from people who aren't in journalism.
Thank you.
Just a quick question. I'd just like to know what each of the committee members' goals are going into this process.
It's as Jeff said, you're absolutely right. I came into this not being in the J school, but my experience is that I have team taught with some faculty on the J school back in the late 90s through 2001, and I've actually worked with quite a few of the faculty, so I know them. And Jeff said something earlier, as a faculty member of CU, I'm interested in making sure that the faculty's rights are being respected, and I have had, and I continue to have, a lot of the same questions that you have posed to us. So as an outside member, I'm sort of outside, but I have worked closely and taught electronic information strategies with members of the faculty, and I felt like I knew a little more than perhaps some other faculty. And being in the library, I can relate to being told that perhaps some of our skills are outdated or that we could easily be replaced by Google. So I feel like I am sensitive and aware to some of the issues that are being brought up with regard to the discipline as well.
So I'm a faculty member of my tenure in political science. I've spent the last 5 years actually directing the environmental studies program and have worked with a number of faculty in journalism in the environmental journalism area. But my goals and my perspective on the task of this committee really come from, can't remember how many years, but it's probably 5 or 6 of being on the program review committee. And so it is that it's the one institution, the one process that the university has that tries to look at all the units in some rotation to try to figure out how we can do better. And one of the things I've really learned from that process is we very often make recommendations that additional faculty, additional resources, better space should be allocated to this area or the other. But our ability to do that is very heavily constrained by the extent to which in any university, including CU, most of the resources available are tied up in existing faculty in existing programs. So if you look at how many positions a dean, whether it's the dean of journalism or the dean of arts and sciences, dean of the law school, actually has to create and do new things with, it's really a very small number compared to the existing faculty. The number of new hires that we have been doing, particularly in the last several years, given the budget cuts, is really quite small. And so it is part of the obligation, I think, of this committee not to think about it as a mission to either save money or not to save money. It's a mission to really think about the larger interest of the institution, and that includes both current students and future students, current faculty and future faculty. But really the institutional mission that we have to try to deliver excellence in all the programs that we offer at CU. And the question is, can we do that with the existing resources that we have? And very frankly, it's difficult if every program, every policy, every degree, every unit is basically forever, then there's very little margin for growth. There's very little margin for innovation. And so I teach public policy at the graduate level, now at the undergraduate level, and it's absolutely clear to me if you keep all the existing policies, you will never innovate. And so there is a way, apart from the formal part of thinking about discontinuance, that you have to be able to terminate existing things that you're doing to create resources, to create space, to create faculty time, to do new and better things.
My goal is to try to make a best judgment about how to deploy the resources we have in a way that makes for the highest quality programs for our students. That's what I'm most focused on and hope to try to contribute my interest and study to achieve. Are we doing this the best way we know how? Is this the best combination? Is this the best organization? Is this the best set of mission goals and themes that give our students the best education we can?
And let me just add, no member of the committee asked to do this process. This is a standing, the Program Discontinuance Committee is made up of a standing committee, the Academic Review and Planning Advisory Committee, the committee that manages program review. They meet year in, year out to review all departments on campus, as Sam said, in a review cycle. When program discontinuance is begun, they're impaneled as the Program Discontinuance Committee with the addition of the officers that I've indicated, including Mike. So it's not like they were seeking this job. They're doing service for the university that is going to get them no thanks. They didn't come into this because they've got an axe to grind. They are sitting there as an impaneled group of faculty that have been selected through a shared governance process because their opinion is respected on the campus. By region policy, program discontinuance is never run inside a unit. There's no unit that's going to say, yes, closes down. I mean, that's just not. In fact, if a unit's under review, the members of that unit recuse themselves from the process. So when my home department, English, was under review by the program review committee, I had to leave the room so they could conduct their conversations without me present. So the idea is to make sure that the campus's interests as invested in the faculty who make up, they are the faculty of the heart of this campus, that a faculty committee is being asked to go through an investigative process, of which this is part, in order to arrive at a rational decision about how we proceed.
Hi, my name is Luke Powell, and I am not a current student at this school. I'm a student at Metro State in journalism, photojournalism is my major. Metro wasn't my first choice. I originally started out in culinary arts at Johnson Wales and transferred over to Metro. And I'm putting myself through college on my own dime. And I had always hoped to eventually transfer here and go to the graduate program here. And, Metro is, a state college, and it's, despite what it doesn't have and CU does have, it has a lot of practicum classes. It doesn't have nearly as many theory classes here as it does here. And I really hope that you guys, if you guys do decide to reorganize the School of Journalism, that you throw some of those things in there, like photojournalism, multimedia. It's very important. Journalism has always been evolving. And I believe that the school needs to evolve with it. And Metro is working on that, and I believe CU should do that. And I really hope to come here to get my master's and whatnot in journalism. And as far as teachers go, at Metro we have tons of teachers from all over the place with different backgrounds. We have teachers from the Rocky, from the Denver Post. One of my current teachers went to Columbia in the School of Journalism and got their PhD there. We have great teachers, and we have a good thing going, and it's slowly evolving. Not quite to the standards of what you guys have here, but hopefully one day it will, and hopefully one day I'll be able to afford to transfer here or get a scholarship here. But that's just my hope and my comment. So, thank you.
Thank you.
My name is Brianna, and I'm a first-year master's student this year in the journalism department. And I was drawn to CU specifically for the environmental journalism. It's such a unique combination of humanities and science that just doesn't exist in a lot of universities here. And I think it also is reflected in the diversity of students that are attracted to the program. In our orientation, there were 35 new students in the program this year, and I think 2, maybe 3 had undergrad journalism background. So we're coming in this from fields all over the board, completely unique, and trying to get something out of it. And I think that the one unifying thing is the journalism. We want to learn how to write, how to communicate, how to send messages to people. And I understand that obviously that field is changing very quickly and in a lot of ways. But I think that the media is the means of communicating those messages and not the content itself. So I think it's really important that we keep the theory and the ethics at the center of it. Teach us how to be journalists, teach us how to communicate to people, because that's why we're here. And I think that the media and the ways of that communication needs to evolve and needs to be integrated at every level. If we're taking a writing course, whether it's printed in a newspaper or if it's published online, the writing needs to be the main idea, and then we need to learn how to communicate those in different methods. Not a specific digital media course that's just tacked on the side. I think it really does need to be integrated, but that it needs to be the means and not the content of the program itself.
Thank you. Is there anybody else who would like to put in a word?
Well, I would just like to say that I don't think you guys should look at it as a thankless job, because I think a lot of us will be thanking you with whatever, decisions we're hoping that you'll come out with some good outcomes. So we thank you for that, for your time.
On behalf of the committee, I appreciate that. Well, if no one else has anything to say, we'll let you all go. Do remember that you can continue to contact the committee through input@colorado.edu. Please tell your fellow students there will be another session tomorrow at noon. I believe it will be it's at noon tomorrow. I believe it will be in 235 right across the way, but somebody will be here to point the way. So thank you all very much for your input.